Okay, so my name is Larch Maxey. I'm here as part of the Global Climate Hunger Strike and in the UK part of the Election Rebellion. And we're on day 4 of the hunger strike, and we've had meetings with 2 party leaders and arranged meetings with 2 other party leaders. So, hello, so my name is Larch Maxey. I'm here with the Global Climate Hunger Strike and in the UK also with the Election Rebellion. And we are on day 4 of the hunger strike. In the UK we've got about 250 people on hunger strike. There's about 500 around the world in 27 countries on 6 continents. And we are hunger striking because it's the last resort. We have to get action on this climate and ecological emergency. And in the UK in particular, we've got this election. It has to be the emergency election. If we do not get government that can actually start taking us forward on this emergency, then it's going to be too late. That's what the science says. It's very clear. It's urgent. So that's why I've very reluctantly taken this decision to join the hunger strikers, partly because in supporting them to develop this action, I just got so inspired by these incredible people willing to make this sacrifice, but also just very present every day with what's at stake and this opportunity we have with this election. And I just feel like we need to use every tool in the box to try and address this crisis. So here I am, much to my surprise, on day 4 of a hunger strike. And we've had great success. In 4 days we've managed to get meetings with 2 party leaders about the climate and ecological emergency bill, the 3 demands bill. So a bill exists. All candidates need to do is say they're going to support the bill and get their party to support the bill, and we can start moving out of this crisis and into solutions which will actually bring people together, have more sense of connection and less isolation, and for most people a better quality of life. Now, most people haven't even heard of this bill, and that's the challenge. That's what we need to get the bill and the issue of the emergency at the top of the agenda. And so we've got meetings now. We've had meetings with 2 party leaders, and we've got meetings set up with 2 more party leaders to talk about their support for the bill. And we've temporarily suspended occupation of the 2 parties because of that and their kind of seemingly genuine commitment to get behind this bill and to understand it and see how they can support it. But we've only suspended that. We're completely free to resume that hunger strike occupation of all parties as soon as we see that they're delaying or not genuine in their commitment to move forward with it. And so now the pressure is on the last 2 parties, which are the Brexit Party and the Conservative Party. We've not had yet any contact with any of their leadership, even though we wrote to them a week ago. And so we'll be going today now to occupy the Brexit Party office. We did occupy all 6 offices on Monday and were removed from all of those offices. Apart from the Green Party, they let us stay until we met with their leader. So that's a very civilised way to do it. Interestingly, when hunger strikers occupied Obama's election office in 2012, they let them stay for 6 days on hunger strike. So interesting that they've chosen here to remove us straight away in most cases. So we're imagining that they'll probably remove us today, but we're going prepared in case they don't to stay in that office to keep the pressure up. We need to start doing more and more now to build the pressure, because we need meetings with all of the leaders, that we need all of them to get this urgency and to connect. What I'm trying to do with them when I'm meeting with them is to connect with them on a personal level, to really see how the emergency, when they face it fully, lands with them, and sort of try and get them to actually have an emotional engagement. And it's quite challenging, actually. We met with Sal Brinton yesterday, to her credit, Liberal Party president, but it took me 4 times of asking, how do you feel, for her to actually say she felt horrified. Before that, every time she would push it onto policy or the Lib Dems and how their approach to the issue is, it's like, no, how do you feel? And so it's only when we have that personal engagement with this crisis that we can really start to give it the attention that it deserves.
Sorry, I need to start.
Are you going in there? I think maybe. No, behind us. Oh, yeah.
Sorry, who are you to say?
So we're here to see our friend, was it Ollie?
Yeah.
Ollie here from her.
So we're part of the group that's doing the hunger striking to see all of the parties. So we wrote to Nigel Farage
Right.
a week ago.
Right.
Have a meeting.
He's actually not here at the moment. He's out on the road campaigning.
Okay. So we're happy to stay until he comes to meet with us because we've tried
I mean, this is actually
several
quite.
ways to try and track him down.
This is a private office, so I mean, he's not here. He's not going to be here maybe until after the election.
Well, we'd really like to speak to him. We've tried everything we can to get us an appointment to speak to him. We've managed to. We're currently on hunger strike because of the climate and ecological emergency.
Right.
And we actually have a bill that's ready to go. It's called the Climate and Ecological Emergency Bill. So we're just trying to.
Can I just ask you to wait maybe downstairs, and I will see if I can get someone to come and talk to you. Because this is a private office, so.
Keep that shut.
Yeah.
No, the doors are shut. The doors are shut. The doors are shut.
Sorry, please don't touch me.
The doors are shut. The doors are shut. It's a private office, you are trespassing.
Don't touch me.
Rules on assault are very strict.
Thank you.
Very strict.
That's what they got in.
So they would be able to see people's telephone numbers and
How you
things
doing?
like that.
All right.
Hi.
All right.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little about what you're doing here today?
We're hunger striking to raise awareness of the climate crisis and bring it up the political agenda. And they've built a little fort around us to keep us safe.
And Jane, what are you doing?
Yep. So I'm on hunger strike day 4, and you know, we've asked all the political leaders to meet with us. We gave Nigel a letter on Thursday, I believe.
Right.
We haven't had any response, so we've come to their offices to ask for that meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
This isn't a public place. You can't film it. You can't film it, it's not a public place.
Oh, there's a guy walking around who stole my phone. He took it out of my hand and he's got my phone.
Somebody took your phone?
Yeah, somebody took my phone. Yeah, thank you.
You cannot.
So you can't film in our office?
So I won't film.
You cannot film here. It is not a public space.
Yeah, sorry.
You
don't have permission to be here, you don't have
Seriously,
permission to film.
you cannot film here. You cannot film it. I'm not touching. You can't film here though.
Yeah.
You can't. I have a right not to be filmed here.
So then,
Sorry, mate.
okay.
No, you're violating our space now.
Yeah.
Sorry,
It's
mate.
not- you
Yeah,
can't
you're not
film
allowed to film in here. Sorry, mate.
Turn the camera down.
Yeah.
Don't touch me,
Yeah.
please.
Oh, get your hands off me. Don't touch me. Don't touch me.
Reasonable force.
Don't touch me. Don't touch me.
If you need to get him around the building, you need to get the police.
Sam,
Please don't assault anyone. It's assaulting.
If you reasonable force, please.
It's the police's job to take us out of the building if you think that's what's needed.
He's got a broken finger. Don't. What are you doing? This is assault. Pick this up, please.
Shut the door. Shut the door.
Great.
That was assault.
Get your name,
And
please.
criminal damage. Criminal damage. Because I'm the police.
What do we call?
Just assaulted a member of the press. Broken his camera.
So where's the scum? Sorry, you the scum? Do I don't know. Wearing quite. I've actually got a tie up.
So what are you doing in this building?
I mean, we're here to ask for a meeting.
They shouldn't be involved in politics if they can't, speak to members of the public in a civilised manner, right? Really shouldn't be involved in politics if behave like that. Anyway, I've got all of that on camera, so great.
Which you filmed illegally.
Huh? No, there's no
There's
illegal
actually
thing.
there's no law against film.
It's not local.
No, you need people's permission to broadcast that. You know how that.
We haven't broadcast it. It's not. You can take photos and you can film.
George, take a walk about. Stand up. Yes.
We'll get to that in a minute. Are you supposed to be in this building, sir? Right, get out of this building. If you're not supposed to be in the building, get out of the building. Wait for us on the street.
Yes, that's the other way.
Is there two of them?
That's
At
two,
least.
and then there's another two in there.
Two and this man here. This man here.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye-bye.
I just want to observe what's happening. To be a legal observer. That's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, I'm sure you are.
Right, who's not supposed to be here?
This gentleman and this gentleman
No,
are not
guys.
supposed to be in this
How
building.
you do? Have either of you been asked to leave?
Several times.
I don't know.
Yes, several times.
Okay. Is any of you senior management within the building? Any of you guys?
Not within the building now, it's a rented office, it's none of us work with, we just work with this office.
Okay. So to your knowledge, neither of you have been asked to leave?
We've come to ask for a meeting with Nigel Farage.
Yeah, I understand, but
That's what we'd like to do.
regardless, it's
I'm
a
willing to
private
leave.
building,
I'm
they've
willing
asked you
to
to leave.
leave.
Yeah.
But I just want to know how we make sure we can get that invitation to him.
Right.
And what his response is going to be.
Okay. I mean, that's not part of my responsibility, but
Well,
at
we
this
voted
stage...
him a week ago.
Yeah,
And
I don't act on
we-
behalf of Jeremy Corbyn.
Sorry?
I don't speak on behalf of Jeremy Corbyn or even his office.
We're not talking about Jeremy Corbyn.
Who did you speak about then?
Nigel Farage.
Sorry, beg your pardon, sorry. Like I said,
Interestingly enough, the other parties have agreed to meet
so-
with us. So it's only two parties left that haven't agreed to meet with us. So
okay.
that's why we've just tried to find another way to get that, requested and make sure it's landed.
Right, okay. Well, I hear your concern, but if you could leave the building, please, that you've been asked to, that'd be much appreciated.
Well, how do we get to speak with him?
It's not.
Well, I've tried asking. That's why we've got
I
here.
know. Yeah, and you've tried and you've got nowhere. So they've asked you to leave. It's a private building. That should be the end of the matter. So if you could just kind of leave, that'd be fantastic.
I'd like to sort of just. I'm willing to leave, but I want to be. I'd like to be able to observe what's happening with these two because they're, my friends, and I'd like to be able to just.
The conversation that they're having is exactly the same as what we're having.
Okay. Well, I don't want to leave until I know that they're okay.
Okay, from what?
Well, I've just been assaulted.
Yeah, we can deal with that, but we need to deal with that outside. Because right now,
How's that?
well, because you're trespassing here at the moment, you've been asked to leave. We're happy to deal with it. More than happy to deal
What
with
if
it.
the person that assaulted him is here? I mean, shouldn't you be questioning them both together, or is that going to happen outside too?
No, we'll speak to you first outside, and then we'll take a description of who assaulted you, and then we'll deal with that.
Could you at least identify
I've just pointed one
Yeah,
out to you.
this all does feel like distraction and diversion techniques to me. So
No, I've just been assaulted.
Yeah,
I've got a broken finger, and we told them of that before they assaulted, or as they were assaulting us.
So-
They carried on assaulting me.
I've asked you to leave several times now.
But my concern is that this crime...
It's starting to look like you're refusing to leave.
So first of all, let's be clear that if I'm... there's other offices that I might want to visit on this building, so I've got perfectly legitimate business to go, for example,
Yeah,
and
you
visit
can't
another building.
just come in and go to whatever building, whatever floor, whatever office you want to, because it's a private building.
And film.
So, again, for however many times I've asked you, fourth or fifth time...
Let me just finish.
Go ahead.
So, my contention is that, for example, if I wanted to go and visit another building and ask another company or organisation in this building, I could do that. So,
could you?
Yes. For example, there's other companies on this building. Companies,
You could walk into a private building,
Can I just finish?
even though they've said you can't enter.
No. This is the Brexit Party on this floor. They don't own this building. They don't own this floor of the building. there are other floors on this building that are in use by other companies and other organisations.
How did you get access to the building?
Just walked in.
Yeah. Did you have a pass to get
So
in?
can I just finish?
Carry on, yeah, carry on. Yeah.
So first of all, I would contend that I do have a lawful right to be in this building. Now, perhaps not on this floor, but certainly this building. And then the second thing is, if I don't have a right to be on this floor, then it wouldn't be an offence, a criminal offence. The very worst it could be is a civil offence of trespass, a civil trespass. So we're talking about potentially a civil matter, whereas I'm saying there's potentially a criminal matter that's just happened, which we have on film, and the perpetrators of that are here in front of you. And I'm asking you, before I leave this building, which I'm willing to do, I'm happy to leave this building, but I would like to pursue the criminal matter, which is much more serious than the civil matter that you're talking about.
Yeah, if it was down to me, that's not going to happen. We can deal with this civil, we deal with your criminal matter.
So you just said you're not allowed to take photos.
It's my office.
No, you're doing it.
It's my office. It's my office.
So this is one of the gentlemen.
Absolutely. No problem. We'll have a conversation with this
earlier.
In order to do that, we're asking you to leave in order to do that.
No, because once I'm out, you'll be like, you'll be those people that disappear. This there'll be no accountability.
Yes. So, like I said, at this point, it sounds like you're refusing to leave. You keep saying that you're willing to leave.
I am. We're adding conditions to my assault being taken seriously.
Why would you feel that it's not being taken seriously?
The perpetrators are here.
They're not trying to get away from you, are they? They're present. You're making an allegation in their presence. They're not even trying to get away. They work here, so let's deal with this in an adult way. You don't think I'm taking you seriously, clearly. Why do you think that?
Because I would like their names and details before I leave. I've asked them for their names. The main perpetrator is gone.
Why do they have a right to give you their names? Why do they have a right to give you their names? If I ask you your name, do you think you have to give it to me? You don't. He doesn't. Nobody here has to give me their name if I ask them to. Same circumstances. I let you finish, so you're going to let me finish. He does not have to give you your name. So you saying, I'm not leaving until he gives me your name, is not going to happen.
That's true.
Okay, so thank you.
But at least you can ask him.
So can we now please leave the building?
You could ask him for his details.
I don't see how that's going to help.
Because I've just been assaulted.
Yeah, we have a criminal circles and circles.
But listen, it's a criminal offence. Assault is a criminal offence.
Absolutely.
So I would like that to be taken seriously. To know that that's being progressed.
Still at this stage, I don't understand why you don't think it's been taken seriously. Everything he's been recorded. Can you imagine if later down the line you went to someone above me and said, this officer didn't take my assault seriously. She's recording, he's recording, I'm recording, everyone's recording here. What do you think that would do? It would hang me out to dry. So we're going to take it seriously, but you guys are going to have to leave. Let's get that one boxed off first, and then we can take it seriously.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Do you understand my concern that there were about...
I understand why you've got a concern, but as far as I'm concerned, it's your concern is that I'm not taking it seriously.
Okay, no,
your concern is that you're going to leave the building and say bye.
So
it's not going to happen.
You've made a very good case persuading me you are going to take it seriously. I appreciate that. Yeah. So my concern is that there are a number of people in this building that were involved in that assault, and that once I'm out of the building, I won't be able to identify them. They'll, you know.
You've already pointed one of them out to me. We've got several witnesses here who I'm sure can help in the investigation.
But they're all part of the Brexit Party that are carrying out the assault. So,
I mean, I'm sure there's other CCTV at a later date we can...
You said it was all captured on camera anyhow.
Well, I don't know. I don't know how much of it was, but yes, there were cameras...
From your own people?
Yeah, there were a couple of people filming. So
are they going to hand us over footage today? To support the investigation?
They might do.
People sometimes are hesitant to. I imagine we could just get a copy.
Yeah, no, I imagine they would be up for doing that. Yeah, that would be really helpful, yeah.
Or if it's live streamed or...
Yeah.
What's the word?
No, I don't think...
Yeah. What's the word? Come on.
Live stream.
Cloud. Put it in the cloud. Thanks.
Yeah, so yeah, okay, so you're assuring me, if I leave this building, that you will...
We'll do it right now. If you accompany me outside, I will stay with you and I'll take as much details as I possibly can from you.
Yeah, I mean,
Right, I'll let you know now, at this stage, if you try and come up with another obstruction, I'm going to take it as you're not happy to leave. You said you're happy to leave, I'm going to escort you out the building, and we'll stand side by side, and I'll take down every single piece of information you want to give me. Descriptions, your name, what happened, you can show me footage, you can do whatever you want. But right now, us two are going to leave, sorry, us three are going to leave, because I believe this gentleman is a member of your party as well. Yeah? Is that the case? So we can go and do that.
Independent member of the press.
No problem at all. We can do that now. Let's go outside and we can sort it out. So I want to satisfy both parties. I want to satisfy you, and I want to satisfy these people who asked you to leave several times. Can we do that now?
Okay, so what's happening with those two that are in there?
Okay, we can do that.
Okay, great. And can I ask what's happening with the other two in there?
At the moment, sir, what we're trying to do is ascertain if security here are able to use their lawful powers to remove them, at which point we will facilitate that to prevent any breach of peace. Okay? We're not going to be removed.
It's lovely when your sergeant says the same thing.
It is nice, isn't it?
No, but he backs me up. We didn't even have a conversation before that.
I mean, they're completely peaceful, so they're not breaching anyone's peace, are they?
Just talking to me about that. Basically, the company here, the security, it's their job to deal with trespassers, as you've said. Okay? But if somebody is to resist being removed,
They wouldn't resist being moved, I don't think.
Okay, but, you know, if somebody were to,
It's to make sure that everything's accountable, that's all. Just to make sure that everyone's actions here are above board.
Yeah.
Okay? That's the main thing.
Great.
Okay. Shall we move?
I guess so.
Press the button.
So who's that filming them in there?
I would imagine that's going to be somebody that was already here for or an independent member of the press. You never know. Don't make assumptions.
True. Okay, so
Would you like to join us, sir?
Yep.
Right, get your closing shot.
You've ruined it by saying that now. Sorry.
The pair of you assaulted, or just yourself?
I think both of us, weren't we?
And
And what was
camera was broken.
What was the nature of the assault?
At first, at first they just left us alone, but then they all just suddenly came out.
One of their colleagues said, "Yeah, the laws are."
And then I got dragged out, and then some guy we're not moving, by the way. Some guy maliciously went for my camera and has ripped off this and broken it.
Where was it?
It's secured here. It's really.
So it is actually damaged, or
Yeah,
has it just been taken off?
And this is really sensitive because it's the. It's vibrating. Camera issues since my camera's been destroyed.
Incredibly dry. I've been on Hunger Strike for 4 days, and with all of that excitement, before I scream, I'm living a little just a bath and just going to go get a bit of water. So we're outside the Brexit Party offices. We just went in to try and speak with Nigel Farage. We wrote to him a week ago. We haven't heard. So we're outside the Brexit Party offices where I've just been assaulted. Fortunately, the police came and I've reported the assault to the police. It's going to get better each time.
Yeah.
So I'm Larch, Maxey. I'm part of the Global Climate Hunger Strike and the Election Rebellion, and I'm outside the Brexit Party offices where I've just been assaulted. We were just going in there to try and ask Nigel Farage for a meeting. We've had meetings now with 4 of the party leaders, so we're just trying to make sure we get all of the party leaders to meet with us ahead of this most important election and try and get their position on this climate and ecological emergency, and to bring to their attention the fact that there is a bill all ready to go, the climate and ecological emergency bill, and to ask them to support that bill, to commit to putting their weight behind it. So we were trying to do that, but in the process I got really quite roughly handled and assaulted. My finger's been damaged. It was already broken by the police on the 7th of October, but unfortunately it's been damaged again quite badly today during that assault. So the police are now going to be investigating that. Believe we've got Channel 4 News on the way, and we've still got a couple of people up there in the office talking it through with the police. We'll see what happens. They may get removed at some point soon.
Put it on the side here. Go. Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Just so talk to me.
Yeah. It was kind of odd actually. We just walked in and sat down, and they built a little fort around us with light screens to try and screen us off. Then security asked us to leave, and then we just sat there until the other security guard showed up and he removed us. That's basically it. But, yeah. Jane's just being removed now. I think she's about to come out. Just very odd atmosphere really. Just no one wanted to engage. So what can you say? Fine. Yeah. Fine.
Well, I think his view I suppose I was thinking, if you want to get engaged Nigel, is this the best way to do it? No, I mean, nothing should engage Nigel. It should engage all political parties.
Yeah, we're trying to. It's worked with the other parties so far.
Same article I gave him. Also, obviously, there. But John Gray, why Green should stop playing golf. Okay.
We'll read it.
How are you, Jane? Do you want to do a piece of the colour?
I really hate it.
Okay.
I don't promote the Brexit Party or Nigel Farage, but one thing I have noticed, I've been filming with him for a number of months, is that he does engage with people. He's had a radio show, phone in, he does seem to engage with people, and it just seems that there have been other routes other than something as drastic as this, because there's people there that's affecting their lives as well, not just Nigel's. Yeah, I mean, we talk about affecting people's lives, thousands of children die today, that's massive effect. Talking about
the bus with him. Who can blame him? I will be. I just fast talk you guys on the off chance. The Brexit! Thank you very much. And bollocks to the Brexit Party! Revoke Article 50!
So, more vouchers did he take off? Or?
We have different points of view. I disagree wholeheartedly with some of the things that you wish to do because I think you will cause enormous harm to real people. So, I'm happy for you to have your point of view.
Yeah.
Please allow me to have mine, and please don't assume that you're morally better because you care about the children. Guess what? I care about children too.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just one of those things. We just have a different way of thinking how best to provide for them in the future going forward.
So first of all,
but I am going to have to carry on.
Okay, well, we're not advocating policies. So to say what we're planning to,
actually,
we want a
there
citizens'
have
assembly.
been- I have
We're all
sat-
about people
I
making
have
the
sat
choices.
and watched people who are nominally representing ER on TV, doing interviews and all the rest of it. And yes, policies have been thrown regularly. And I believe
The core of it is a citizens' assembly. Are you aware of that?
we do have elections. Guess what? Do you know what this was about? Elections.
But do you know what?
I've got to go.
Our
Sorry.
system isn't working.
Have a good day. Well,
thank you. I won't take this down to
it's
the
working
council,
for
I'll take
different,
that.
for not working for all sorts of reasons.
Yeah.
How can we not think about a citizens' assembly? They're the same process. We're fine.
Guys, the message for me. Bollocks to Brexit!
It's not a tick box, you don't ever end that part. And when
demands are met by people who do. It's like nature. No, no, there is.
what he said in that context, and you know,
I'm not, some people are, I'm not personally, I'm saying.
No, I'm just saying, for me, like, XR exists to get these demands met. We're close to getting these demands met. We need XR's energy helping us with this. Our job is to get, like right now, is to get the demands met. Like once we get the demands met, everyone, we don't need to create an organisation. If the demands are met and everyone knows the truth, then the whole thing will take care of itself to some extent. We'll have a role to play, of course.
Demands not going to be met straight away. Even if you get.
Well, the whole thing about the bill is that, you know, once everyone knows the truth and we started using it from citizens'
assembly, that's going to set in train a whole process of people actually like, well, we use a citizens assembly for that, why doesn't this?
Yeah, I think
it's not like XR is going to go away, and people are still going to be active agents in the society, helping bring about the sort of the vision that comes after the demands.
Yeah, I think the demands can be met in a way which could be either lead to more climate apartheid, if you based upon fear, the demand, the fear of what's going to happen, rather than looking at, and also we also need to look at structures of power. We do need to look at that because otherwise.
Sure, my name's Keith, also called Monty. I live in London with my parents, and I found out about Extinction Rebellion. I'd heard about them during the year whilst I was abroad. But when I found out I was here during the October Rebellion, I was called to join in. So I came into London. I actually went on a hunger strike spontaneously when I got here because I just felt the desire to contribute something. And I was particularly disturbed by the helicopter presence over the city. I just felt it was totally unnecessary and also virtually a kick in the teeth for the protesters who were protesting about climate change. And here we have two helicopters virtually 24/7 over London. It just seemed obscene in a climatological sense, but also very, very over the top in terms of oppressively kind of almost overbearing presence over the event, which was largely peaceful, totally peaceful. Okay, civil disobedience to a certain extent, but a lot of peaceful people there who did not want to be involved in anything that could have been resulted in an arrest. So yeah, I joined in and I was very happy. After the rebellion, I joined in a local group and I was thrilled to discover. For me, the hunger strike is a very powerful way of protesting, of inspiring hopefully others. I'd like to inspire people to see what's possible. So refusing food has also a spiritual element for me. It's about confronting the ego. And the ego, to this mind, seems to be the core of humanity's problems. We're coming to this existence from another realm which is boundless, limitless, and we come into this physicality where we're limited, we're bound by time and space. We also have evolutionarily a competitive element which causes us to be greedy. So, we also have a need to conserve energy, not to squander it. So if we find an easy way to do something, it's built into our nature to do that. Not nature, it's built in, hardwired into the system to take easy ways out. Now in this society, in this civilization, if we're in the developed world, we have the opportunity to take an easy option 24/7 virtually. And so people are having easy lives, they're being very greedy. And this is all driven by the ego, which was there to help the body and the mind to survive in a natural environment. We're no longer in that situation. We're masters of this universe, effectively. The only threat to ourselves is ourselves, our unleashed hunger, desire, avarice coming from within the ego. So a hunger strike or a fast, if you were doing it as a spiritual activity, gives you that opportunity to constantly confront the ego. The ego and the mind want to be fed. They want that energy. You're saying, no, I'm in charge. I want to do what I want to do. You help me achieve my objectives. And in this situation, my objective is help XR get its objective, which is to get the political leaders on board to release to the public the reality, the truth of the situation, which is incredibly precarious. This is a huge network of life on the Goldilocks planet of the universe. No other planet has these conditions for life, perfect conditions. And what are we doing? We're destroying it left, right and centre. Obscene. So, forgive me, I've got on a huge rant there.
Beautiful.
Your question was, why am I here? I'm here to support one of the best causes I've ever come across. I've supported other causes, but nothing has moved me as much as XR has done. I'm so grateful.
So how long have you been on hunger strike now?
This is day 8.
And what are your plans going forward?
I'd like to keep going for as long as I can, to be honest.
Yeah. And is that because you see this is working? Like we've got this climate and ecological emergency bill, and we're meeting with party leaders about their support for the bill. Do you see that that's working, and you see that carrying on the hunger strike can help to bring them to the table?
To be perfectly honest, I'm not so familiar with all the details, and I'm not too concerned with them. On a more general level, what I would see is that, from what I've heard, is the Greens and Plaid Cymru agreed very quickly to that meeting. The Lib Dems and Labour kind of vacillated a bit. The Conservatives and Brexit seem to have shown no response. And to me, that just emphasises it gives us a spectrum on the compassion scale, basically, with some parties incredibly compassionate and others totally not. So that's a very interesting outcome for me, and certainly I would like to go on till everybody comes to the table and talks with XR and accepts the gravity of the situation and starts confronting it head on, because it needs to be.
Incredible. That's an incredible commitment and sacrifice that you're willing to make. Thank you so much for that. And what would you say to anyone watching this or listening in terms of how they can support, what they can do?
Okay, so for me, personally, it's about spirituality and confronting the ego. I've talked to a taxi driver who was driving past outside the Liberal Democrats a couple of days ago, and he was talking about something quite complex to do with industry and some kind of financial deals going on. And he was saying if we were involved in that, he'd be joining us on a march. And then, I can't recall the detail, but there was someone else outside the Labour Party headquarters talking about something else that she was passionate about. And a couple of students, actually, young children, young adults or on the borderline, and they were talking about the leaflets we were giving out that were printed on paper and that would be causing an environmental impact. And to these people, what I'd say is certainly there are so many issues that need attention, if you have an issue, a burning passion, come and join us. Join a local group. You will connect with other people who will share your passion and will become active. You can form an active group depending on what drives you. This organisation is a grassroots organisation. It doesn't impose what you need to do and how you need to do it. It goes with what you want to do. So long as you follow the underlying guiding principles of the organisation, you're welcome to do what you want to do, how you want to do it, even when you want to do it. So join us, please. Join us. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah, fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah,
No,
I want
seriously.
to honour you and say thank you so much for what you're doing, and yeah, for all of the hunger strikers. I mean, I did 7 days, and that was definitely one of the most intense things I've ever done. I've never done anything like it. I didn't plan to do 7 days. Didn't plan to go on hunger strike. I was just going to be part of it and support it, and it became clear to me that participating in it while supporting it allowed me to support it more effectively, because I can relate to now what you're going through, and I'm actually absolute hats off to you. You know, the fact that you can even be here having a coding conversation out in the cold on day 8 is incredible. It just like blows me away. So yeah, I just wanted to say I'm here at your service, and if there's anything I can do to support you, just let me know. And I would put a call out for everyone watching to say, please come and join us. You know, the hunger strikers themselves have been holding these sites. We've been here whilst on hunger strike, setting up, giving out leaflets and packing down each day. And that can't happen going forward, because as we go into longer, the second week, the hunger strikers need more and more support. So we need to step up and support them so that they can carry this on, because we know from the history of hunger strikes that as the time goes on, the pressure will build on the parties to meet with us and to start supporting the bill. And so local groups, particularly in London, please come down, take a day, say, well, okay, I'll come and do that day, and I'll hold the site, I'll set up that day, or I'll pack down that day. Whatever you can do to support, please do. And nationally, we're encouraging people to be part of this phase 2 rollout, where from the 2nd of December, next Monday, we're going to be occupying offices all over the country. So again, we're going to have a Facebook page around that. Please look out for that. Please get involved. So whatever way you can support, please do. Those that want to join the hunger strike can still do that as well. It's ongoing. You can join for a day, you can join for a week, you can join for shorter, as long as you want. So there's 3 ways people can get involved. You can join the hunger strike, you can come and join us on the sites in London and help give out leaflets or help hold a site, and you can be part of the national rollout of occupations from next Monday the 2nd. Great, thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thank you. I should have said, I can't say actually, Larch, it's been absolutely wonderful to have you around to support and to see you now in this new role.
Yeah.
Whilst you're back on food, to be so supportive and so eager to help, it's an absolute honour. Thank you so much.
No, thank
Much
you.
appreciated.
Yeah, thank you.
And congratulations too to have stepped up, like you said, unexpectedly, and to have done a full 7 days as your first time without food.
Yeah.
That's quite a step.
Yeah.
Well done.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And thank you.
So what we're asking local groups to do is occupy, see where their local constituency offices are, nearest one, make it convenient, and then they go in and occupy as many as possible on the 2nd and from the 2nd. So it can be anything from one person going in at their lunch break, to say for an hour, to ideally at least a few getting together in an affinity group and going, we're going to go in and we're going to stay until the constituency candidate comes to meet us to talk about the demands bill, and they're getting them to support it, because we want pressure. So we're here on our head offices, but we want pressure to come in from the regions as well.
Yeah, okay.
So that's the big ask, and we've got some stuff around that. So we've got a Facebook event we're creating and some information around that.
Brilliant. Okay. Well, if you send me some links, you've got my contact, and then I will feed that back.
Yeah.
You want a blanket to sit on?
I'm all right now. I'm down.
Careful.
just going to send this message. I'll pause this and this is it's just nice, you know, natural stuff.
Yeah.
So,
How are you doing? Yeah, I feel quite out of it. Like today it was quite hard to go to uni because I'm teaching 70 students. Teaching? Yeah. And you're on hunger strike?
Day 8.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
But it's been good. You know, I taught the students what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. It felt like they were like, wow, miss, you haven't eaten for 8 days. It was quite sweet. It's a really nice conversation. What were you teaching? I teach at the Art and Design Foundation. Right. Yeah. So they're like 17, 19 years old. Yeah, I mean, that's for me also like why I really do it, you know, because I teach these young people that don't have a future, you know, like for me it's like I can't be in my integrity and teach if I don't really do that as well. Yeah. You know, I can't look them in the eyes otherwise. And wasn't there a meeting earlier?
There will
be, yeah.
So yeah, we just need to check in about that. So I'll just update you. Yeah. So John McDonnell has been really good actually. Well, it was a bit of a faff because I've been trying to get timings out of Ed. So we're meeting Ed Davey today and John McDonnell and trying to get them pinned down for times. So Ed Davey said 4, then John McDonnell came back at 4:50, and I'm like, that's not okay. Because what you just shared with me about you wanting me to be cogent and able to speak, I felt the same intuitively. So I was like, I actually felt really emotional when I thought I have to be at both of those meetings. So just teased them apart a bit. So John's going to come at 4:30 now. So we're going to. I know it's really tight, but like they are working to tight deadlines, and this is only a stepping stone meeting because we need to meet with the leaders. So this is where we connect with them, get them personally engaged and on board. So they're doing their bit within their circles, and knowing that we keep going, and we need that meeting with the leader. We need the parties really on board. So Ed's going to be at 4 over at Lib Dems, and then we're going to come back. So we'll aim. I'll cut that slightly short to like 4:25 or something, so that we can be here as close as we can to 4:30. So it might be that if John comes down promptly at 4:30, you just like start settle him in.
Is Matthew coming as well?
So I haven't let
I think it
Moth.
would be really important to have a person of.
Yeah, Matthew is here and ready to go. So you and Matthew will be here to greet him, and then I'll be here. Hopefully then, and Sarah Lunnan is also going to be here and part of both meetings as well.
Good.
Yeah.
Good more diversity. Great.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. So,
Nice.
yeah. So it'll be really good.
That's good news.
Yeah, it's really great. And thank you for, because it was all down to you collaring him.
Yeah,
You know,
I saw him this morning again.
Yeah.
Because I was at like 7, he came like 7:30 or something.
Thank God you did, because I had someone trying to persuade me that it wasn't going to happen today, because they'd spoke to someone and they said, I think he's out in the Midlands canvassing. I'm like,
No, he's going tomorrow.
yeah, great. So thank God you'd spoke to him today, so I could say, no, he's in the building, he's going to come.
He's
and,
there.
Yeah,
Good.
so that's great.
Good.
So we should probably get Mothia and Sarah here for just a little prep about how we want to handle the meeting. So do that. Do that in a second.
Yeah, brilliant. Nice one.
Okay. So before we do that, just talk a little bit about the strategy going forward, which I think it's shifted now. I just sort of shared a message. Basically, now we've got these. I've got to make sure we get the balance right. So as we've always said, there's no pressure on anyone to go longer with their hunger strike than they're called to do. And those that are still on hunger strike, as long as they're doing it, our role now is to support you or them. Yeah. You know, so that's partly why I've stopped my hunger strike, so I can be effective in supporting you and making sure you're resting. And so please really listen to your body and your energy levels. Stop if and when you need to stop, but also in the meantime, while you're carrying on, just get others doing stuff. You know.
I just need to have reliable people who do coordination. And also, so to say, but this morning, if someone says they're here at 9, I need them to be here at 9.
Yeah.
Not at 9:20 or 30 or my bus is late.
Yeah.
I need them to be here at 9.
Yeah.
Because I have other stuff to juggle.
Well, I don't think you should be coming and setting up the sites anymore. That shouldn't be your role. We've got thousands of rebels in London, but we must be able to muster some to come and just set up the site. You've been doing it for a week whilst on hunger strike. That's more than enough. Week 2, it's not your role anymore.
If I can let it go if I know that someone's taking it over reliably.
Well,
none of this flaky thing.
Okay, so we
sorry.
have no. It's fine. I'm just encouraging you not to get upset. We haven't got that in place yet, and that's the role today to try and get that. What I would say is that we prioritise you and your resting above everything else for the next day or two until we get systems in place. So if we don't have someone here, like you have been like bang on 7 o'clock here every day, no food, but I'm doing it. But whoever's coming in, we might not keep those discipline levels that you've been achieving up. So we just have to let go of that for a bit, because the bigger picture is we're into weeks 2 and 3. We know that some people are going to carry on in those weeks, and that's when the pressure will build. So, so just work with us on that. Okay, be patient with us. We're not as good as you, but we're doing our best. Seriously, you're an amazing organiser, and you're so focused. But I'm glad. Great. Okay. So that's the main thing, really. Is our role now is to really support you in resting and not just giving everything the best chance we can. Like, we're all just doing our best, however that looks, And what we've achieved so far is so incredible, And I see where we're going with this. We're barely scratching the surface of where we're going with this. So,
And I think it took some time to kind of build the base, but I think now in week 2 and going forward, it will be more. We'll get more to the core, and we'll get more power and more media and more voice. So I think it's really important to just keep steady, like one drop, another day and another day. And I think it's just really crucial. And keep our heart and our compassion, and invite people in.
You make me cry. One of the things I wanted to say was that just to thank you for the part of it you bring and have brought, and I know that you and I have been like slightly different parts of that dance around the need to build pressure and how we do that, and I just wanted to really acknowledge that I'm completely on board with your vision of it now. I really get that it's that vulnerability and simplicity. That's really what's working and what this part of what we're doing is about. So I just really wanted to acknowledge that and thank you for bringing that and being so clear and eloquent in bringing that. So thank you.
Thank you. I was a bit afraid that I cannot step on your toes or into your territory.
No, not at all.
I felt so strongly about it, like my guts just told me, and it needs to be about love and compassion.
I mean, for me it always is, and the disruptive stuff and the arrestable stuff, that's still for me about love and about peace, and I just see, as was just said, that this action is a different thing. We're trying something different here, and let's just give it a full space to see what it is and how it can. Yeah, exactly. So, for example, the kind of support that people are wanting to offer, we talked about. I spoke with them after the meeting, and they're like really open to that. Like they can support us in other ways. So if we don't get the media pickup, they can do other actions which will get the media pickup, and they can still by saying, look, we're having to do this to get attention because those brave people are doing hunger strike and have been ignored for, so I think that we can still link it in but keep it separate.
Beautiful.
So,
good.
So there's always a kind of solution, and it's just knowing that, isn't it?
Glad to hear that.
Thank you.
Good.
What do you think, Gail?
I heard some cheeky rumours actually.
About what?
Well, I don't know if I'm supposed to say.
No, you probably not. If it's what? Go on.
Well, I saw Ramon today.
Yeah.
He just said there were cheeky plans. I thought.
Oh yeah, exactly. So that's the bit. So it was basically, we've been reaching out for support from within XR, going, look, we've got 200,000 rebels, and literally 20 rebels have held this hunger strike for a week. Let's have some more help, more people stepping in, and they are now, but we desperately need more. So I reached, and what we've seen works is reaching out one-to-one to people, saying, can you help with this bit? So I reached out to some people like that person, and they're going to bring what they bring, and it was going to be part of the hunger strike, but what Petrol was saying was, let's keep the hunger strike really pure and clear and vulnerable and simple about the hunger strike and that offering that we offer with that, and then keeping their offering separate but in solidarity and support. So yeah, absolutely there's more to come, but sort of slightly differently phrased. Yeah.
Because I also think there's something really delicate, you know, it's not just XR, but it's the global hunger strike. And if we fuck up anything, or if we do something and the media twists it, we would ruin it for people around the globe, and that would be just the worst we could do. So therefore I feel like if we can really hold it as a precious separate thing would be great.
And what's beautiful is it really was the hunger strike as an approach really responds to some of the feedback and learning from October. You know, that kind of dance with that fine line we're dancing between disruption and people coming with us, and disruption and people being put off. You know, and I feel like there's loads more to play around that, and we have to, you know, Martin Luther King was the least popular man in America in 1963, and then a hero by 1968. He's got a national holiday in his name now, you know. So, and this is different. Let's try it. This is part of the you know, what the strategies that are available to us, the tools that are available, and let's just see how it plays out and how we can work with it.
Yeah. Good. Good.
Great. So we'll go and get.
And I'm glad you're back. You know, back to
functioning,
clear. You know, strength. We need that. We really need that.
Yeah.
What did you break your fast with, Mark?
3 lettuce leaves.
Yay!
As advised by Marco. Lettuce leaves, low sugar, high mineral, very simple little things. But to be honest, at 7 days, it's not a big issue. But once you go into 2, 3, 4 weeks, then you have to be really careful about how you introduce food again. So, yeah, it's always good to respect the body. I mean, it's interesting because I didn't plan to hunger strike. I was planned to support the hunger strike. Hunger strike was never my thing as such, you know. And I've spoke to a lot of people who haven't. I feel part of the reason we haven't got more people stepping in is because, like me, hunger strike isn't their thing. But one of our principles and values is we do what's necessary, and we have to, you know, try, experiment and learn and reflect on that. And I think we can see from week 1 that this works. So if you think hunger striking is your thing or not, it doesn't matter, it's working. Support us in some way. But for me, that journey of being, so in service to the hunger strikers, I saw that I had to hunger strike. It was just clear intuition, and I just did it without any plan. They're all like, you weren't supposed to be hunger striking. And I'm like, I know, but I am. And it was really powerful because to be sitting in a meeting with politicians going, you know, I'm on hunger strike, I don't want to be. What are you going to do? You know, it's really powerful. And I feel because I've been in that journey, even though I'm no longer on hunger strike, we're so bonded now, all of us. And like, Petra just came to me from her work. She'd just been lecturing and said, oh, I'm so glad you're eating now, so you can be there for us fully as a spokesperson. And it meant so much to me because that's, you know, I do want to serve in that way, you know. But the journey was just so humbling, so powerful, so connecting, you know, to connecting with, like, walking up steps, like steps become a real, you know, and there are many, many people in our society for whom steps are an incredible barrier. And so I've experienced that a little bit as a privileged, able-bodied person. I've experienced that a little bit now. Walking behind an older man who's struggling up the steps at his pace, and it's like, that's his life, you know, and for me it's today, and I can choose to eat tonight, and those 3 lettuce leaves will start me back into being able to run up steps again, you know, and connecting with those 820 million people that are hungry today, you know, on a completely privileged, superficial level, but there is a level of connection there, you know, and it was quite a spiritual journey. It was quite it was one of the biggest things I've done in my life, to go 7 days, and you know, I've never done anything like it before, so, you know, but to be on that journey together with all of us, and you know, it's incredible. Yeah.
And so it's also interesting, isn't it? Because with food, you know, there's so much connected with food. There's comfort, you know, eating for comfort, or, you know, social or culture. I mean, I love cooking for friends and eating together.
Yeah.
But also to sometimes numb emotions.
Yeah.
You know, because, you know, if I feel a bit bad and I have a cup of coffee and a nice cookie, I feel better. And that's just not there.
Yeah.
So I need to feel the feelings.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's really like that kind of emotional, again, you just have to deal with your shit, man.
Yeah, which is great. So healthy.
Yeah, it's good. Quite exposing, but yeah.
So let's go and stay warm.
Can you just talk for like
1 minute.
Yeah, you need that sort of continuity. So, I'm just going to...
Yeah, I'm fine. Like, sitting down by
Yeah, exactly. Good. So we'll get John to come through. We'll go and get one for you and Sarah now here, and we'll have that little question.
Yeah, great.
No, I don't know how many days he's here. He'll tell us. But he's been part of the team. Yeah. He's been tending to be part of Punch's kind of labour. They've been holding the labour side.
It's really good to have him here. Still, just to have him coming back, it's great. I think he brings so much.
Yeah, exactly.
Really good.
Yeah.
Shame we don't have more chairs.
I know. More chairs. We need a couple more chairs.
Yeah, I mean, I just couldn't bring more.
No. Oh, right. So we need to delegate that. We need to get. Is there anyone in your local group that become like your buddies?
Yeah, my dearest friend who lives with me has one of the drinks next year.
I'm just sort of like, it's quite a bit of stuff going on at the minute, you probably know. Just trying to help that process and it needs.
Good.
James Mauldin. Keep this short because we've got to get over to Lib Dems to meet Ed Davey.
Right.
This is our prep for meeting John. John's coming at 4:30.
Right.
So that's when we're going to speak with him. So what we did the other day, which worked really well with Sal Brinton, was the first bit of the meeting is to really support her in telling the truth personally, to like letting it in. So what we want to do is have a little bit where we talk, we'll obviously introduce ourselves, and the fact that you're on day 8 is like so powerful. And then it's like, he gets the truth to some extent, but the truth isn't a tick box thing that's ever finished, is it? It's like letting it in layer on layer. So to try and communicate that with him, and really to ask him, like, based on the science and how scary it is, we'll have to do a bit, that, is like, how does it make him feel? We want to sort of have that personal connection. And my experience with Sal, I had to ask her that 4 times before she would actually answer how it made her feel. Like, she was like off over here talking about UNICEF. Oh, I know it's really important. It's the So, because they're politicians, they're the most skilled in the world at making you feel good, whilst not answering necessarily. Now, John is different, but he's still a politician, and that's his job. So I'd say part 1 is to get that personal connection. How do you feel? So he's landing with the thing that we're all landing with. That's why we're here, because we let it in and allow ourselves to feel it. So that's our first part of the meeting, really, is to try and get him to feel it and engage with us on that level. And then the second bit is to then start talking about the bill. And we're not here to talk about policy. He'll be there to talk about policy. We're not here to talk about policy. We're here to talk about the bill. And the reason the bill is more important than policy is because this crisis is so big, policy cannot get us out of this crisis. The best policy in the world, cannot do it, because we need a process. And that's why the 3 demands that are in the bill build on each other, the tell the truth bit. And this is, I think, a key bit, is by telling the truth, his personal practice, which hopefully we'll be supporting, it's also like, by telling the truth, you unleash a different realm of what's possible. Like at the moment, if you tried through policy to impose 2025 on the country, it's not going to work. But if you really tell the truth and use all his power as a party and the media to actually get the country knowing the truth, then what's possible changes, because if everyone knows that truth, people will step up.
We hold a different story.
Exactly.
We hold a collective different story.
So that's why so there's that's the trajectory. Right? Get him to connect with the truth personally, and then get him to understand the power of the country knowing the truth and how we can communicate that together. Him and his party, us and our movement, and so go on.
And the first bit, so the telling the truth bit, the question could be, how does it feel when 6 billion people may die? Something like that kind of level of truth.
Exactly. Whatever kind of connects with him, because we all have. For me, 1,000 children dying today. That's part of my practice. Every day I bring that to mind. 1,000 children will die today because of climate change. It gives me that sense of urgency, that sense of failure, that sense of But it's like, what is it for him? And then we can even talk to him about that. We can talk about our journey of how we find ourselves telling the truth, and sort of see what it would be for him. You know, like we can ask him like that, rather than try and impose our guess of what it is for him. It's like, what would it be for you? You know, what will allow you to tell the truth and let it in. He's probably got kids. You know, I mean, he's obviously on that journey. He's started to tell the truth. You know, he's probably ahead of Jeremy, which is why he's meeting with us. You know, and then so I've said there's 4 bits. So him telling the truth, him getting the sense of what happens when the nation tells their truth, understanding then why it's the bill and it's not policy. And then the 4th thing is our demand of meeting with Jeremy and not with him.
Can you just explain what because maybe this is a language thing. Bill and policy, what's the kind of
Oh yeah, so
difference?
sorry, so yeah, I'm being very quick, so thank you. And thank you. I call out for all of us is that when we're on hunger strike, you have to slow down and be really, really, so I'm sorry.
That's a language thing.
I've been asking people to do it today, even though my food's kicking in now and I'm speaking up. So
One letter leave.
Yeah,
Yay!
I want 4 letters leave now. So when I say policy, I mean their manifestos and all the policies in their manifesto. They're here as politicians. They're going to be constantly trying to steer it to their manifestos that they're proud of. That's what they're standing on this election to get voted in on the basis of. We're here to say, brilliant, you know, love that, and it's not enough for what we're talking about. What we're talking about is this existential crisis, and hopefully he'll agree that it's the biggest threat humanity's ever faced, and so then start to recognise that it's about going beyond party politics, beyond policy. It's like the Citizens' Assembly's job is to come up with the policies. We have to create the process, and that's why it's the bill. And then the last bit is the follow-up, and the follow-up for us is for him to get behind the bill personally, and for him to then help push for a meeting with Jeremy and to understand that this hunger strike isn't going to stop until we have that hour-long meeting with Jeremy that's recorded, talking with Jeremy in the same way about how he can support the bill. How does that sound?
Yeah, good. I think, you know, there's a real kind of, I think it's really good that we give the space for the emotional. Because from the head, we're not going to get anywhere. You know, it's the heart, it's kind of also touching into the fear and the despair and the grief and understanding it, because only then we can actually feel, you know, we can feel the realities that's there. So I think it's really good that we start with that, because it sets the base.
Great, and I think you two will be very powerful on that, because you know you're both very in your bodies, in your hearts, and you're aware of the importance of that. And I think that's why we start with that, because that's the key to it, as you say.
I mean, he's going to be very much in the manifesto mood and going, but we're going to create this positive story. We've somehow got to bring him back to like, but this is what the reality is. Even whatever it's a much bigger story, and find whatever the story is that makes him suddenly blink and go, yes, it's my daughter, and that's whatever it is. We need to find that connection.
And unfortunately, we've only got half an hour for that.
When you said get behind the bill, what do you mean by that? Do you mean for him to put it as a part of the manifesto, or for it to be a parliamentary bill, or a private member?
For him, as part of his practice of telling the truth, is to see that this bill, you know, give him credit for the fact that Parliament has declared that emergency, because he was part of pushing for that. But that's not enough. Words are not enough. You cannot tick box and say we've declared. It's like the step now is this bill. It exists. Can you personally commit as part of your practice to get behind that bill and support it, help it bring it through, help persuade Jeremy, because Jeremy is further on the continuum of telling the truth than he is, to help bring Jeremy forward in that continuum, and the rest of the party and the rest of the country to do his role to help that.
And what about that other, the other, just bringing in about the terms from other languages?
I think that's like at the moment he may not have even read the bill.
Okay.
I think that is, we have to do that. First of all, that role is to work with the political circle and the circle developing the bill to get that language in there.
Yeah.
That's a separate thing. I wouldn't bring that into this conversation.
So you said 4 bits. There's the telling the truth, the 3 demands bill,
well,
and the
there's 2 parts to that. So telling the truth is him as a personal practice, letting it in emotions.
Yeah.
So you could call that emotions.
Yeah.
Then the second bit is the nation telling the truth. Telling the truth as communicating it and getting the country on board, so we're all in it together. And then as Petra said, you know, everything changes. What's possible changes, because there's no point talking about 2025, 2030 until we've got those two things going on.
Yeah. Okay. And then there's a 3 demands bill. Was there something in between? Because you said 4 steps.
Yeah. So there's 1, 2, 3,
right.
4.
Brilliant. Okay.
And sort of the fourth one is 2 bits. It's like what he can do personally, and then to say there's a tangible thing, and like in terms of promoting the bill, and then there's what he can do in terms of helping this meeting with Jeremy. How are we doing with time?
The idea of there being a carbon budget. So it's a bit like if somebody's not got much money left and they keep spending it, it's going to run out.
Yeah.
And actually the reality is we're already over the carbon budget. There is no carbon budget, you've got to get the carbon out. That's the Project Drawdown, Paul Hawken stuff, isn't it? But given what you could describe, you know, from the IPCC as being the carbon budget available in the world, for the UK to have an equitable share of that would take into account its historical emissions being the 5th biggest emitter, it would be certain billions of tonnes or whatever it is, millions of tonnes. And in order to get to that to net zero with only that much left, it would have to do it by 2025. And that would be a linear one. If it wants longer to do it, he has to cut faster, because it's like the graph's that shape, isn't it? You know what I mean? So, the point is you have to do it whatever. The only way you can justify a longer timeline is if you believe in it being acceptable and okay to go overdrawn and leave future generations to pay the money back, to take the carbon out. But that's obviously morally problematic, because it's not fair leaving that to the young to the children, which is why they're on strike. How dare you? But also, it completely ignores the science of tipping points. The tipping points that are already being breached.
Way ahead of predicted.
So, you know, and that the IPCC is actually, in my opinion, not a reliable guide to action, because they're just sort of like backstop. So it's a nonsense these days, and that's where there's no truth in it. It's just, it's kind of, the truth is, it's finished, it has to happen now, and it's not really a question of, you know that, isn't it? Do it as quick as possible. I mean, I often think that, like, the good analogy is it's not a great analogy, but it's like the war analogy, that's what we've done in the past, you know. So I'm more saying like we've been at war with nature, and now we need to do the clean-up. You know, it's like a post-war economy where you throw everything in to sort out the mess. So, and I think it's a kind of messaging that people can understand.
That messaging of the war, which is because often we come from the individual saying what's your choice, but the war is more what will you accept as a restriction in that scenario. And that is more like, so that's what we're saying.
Where once we're telling the truth nationally, what's possible opens up, isn't it? Changes.
And then it becomes non-ideological and non-political, because with an existential threat on the border type of thing, people pull together, don't they? And the rich people have to put their hands in their pockets, and the businesses are left.
And I think it's really powerful because
Done timelines with Tim Jackson got half time 2005. What kind of restrictions? We're not going to go into oppressive restrictions.
Conserve your energy. Let us know if there's anything we can do to support you. Anything you need. You know, don't feel any pressure to do anything. You know, other than just like keep going, and you know, but you know, as I said, no pressure to carry on longer than you're called to. So, are you warm enough?
Yeah, I'm right.
Yeah, good. So Ed Davies coming down at 4. Do you want to be part of that meeting, or are you happy just to be like we will sit around here basically?
Okay. Yeah, I can do background.
Yeah, great. Yeah, good.
Now you guys are here, I'm going to go ahead and see Petra. So see you all later.
Lovely. Thanks so much. Thank you.
Hi, Julian. Nice to see you.
Would you like to see?
I'll just put this down here.
Brilliant. We've got a chair. Yeah, have a seat.
That's very kind of you.
But there is actually back.
It's got, no, the back's broken.
Yeah,
sorry.
That's all right.
Yeah, we had a hunger striker.
If you want, I could give you this suit.
That's all right. Steve's on day. Steve and Julian are on day 8 of their hunger strike.
Okay, finally.
We've got
amazing people.
Yeah, we've had over 500 people on hunger strike around the world, 260 in the UK, and 10 of them are still going because we really need to get this pre-demands bill, this climate and ecological emergency bill passed. So we need to keep the hunger strike going until we get these meetings and get this kind of understanding.
Are you okay, guys? You get drinking a lot of water?
Yeah, oh yeah, because you have to. But apparently if you drink too much, it's quite dangerous.
Oh right, okay. Well,
But
as long as you're getting advice so you don't hurt yourself long term.
Yeah, thank you.
So first we want to start off by just talking about our first demand, or first kind of part of the whole process, is tell the truth.
Yep.
And there's two aspects to that really. The first is individually telling the truth. You know, so I know that you've been very active around environmental issues, and so you're aware of the climate and ecological emergency, and it's great to see the Lib Dems calling it an emergency. It's fantastic. So that's part of moving towards telling the truth. But what we really see is that, and I've been active on this, I've researched for 20 years in academia, and it's only really since like coming across Extinction Rebellion that I've really allowed the emotions in. Like, you know, we see scientists all the time, they're working in this field for decades, but haven't allowed the emotional engagement, and so we actually see that that's vital.
Yeah.
So based, you know, on the science, you know, that we know 1,000 children will die today because of climate change, 1,000 children will die tomorrow. It's like letting that in, you know, knowing that there's an existential threat. Yet this is the greatest challenge humanity's ever faced. You know, would you agree with that?
Totally and utterly.
Yeah. So how does it make you feel when you connect with that emergency, that level of threat, the level of impact that's happening around the world already, and what's to come in this country if we don't make urgent changes? How do you feel?
You feel that you've got a massive responsibility to do as much as you can, both as an individual, as a party, as quick as possible. I remember going to an international climate change debate where there was a number of countries around the world, and there was the Prime Minister of one of the Pacific Islands. And there was one country trying to say, look, this isn't that urgent, you know, we could, and he said, look, I'm sorry, my residents, my citizens, the people of my country, on some of the islands, they go to bed tonight, every night, in a life jacket. And their water supply is already being polluted, if you like, by salt water as the sea rises. So for many people, this is absolutely about their existence. And Extinction Rebellion is obviously about all flora and fauna and animals species on the planet. But we should also remember that human beings, their habitats are going because of climate change, and it will just get worse and worse and worse. So this is the most important issue of our times. It's even more important than Brexit. And as Liberal Democrat, I still think that.
I'm glad you said that, because that's what we're saying.
Yeah, it is. There's no doubt about it. I think Brexit only makes the battle worse, tackling climate change. One of the many reasons why I'm in favour of staying in, because you can leverage all the power you have to try to get people to do a lot more. My biggest fight when I was Secretary of State...
Just to finish this bit about telling the truth personally, like allowing that emotional response, because one of the things I've been in working on this crisis for 30 years, and one of the things we've failed to do, as have you, one of the things we failed to do is for most of that time, is to understand the science of psychology, which we now know, which is that as humans, we are 90% emotional beings and only 10% rational. So for 30 years, we tried to just tell people the facts, assume they'd make the right choices, but we need that emotional connection. So that sounds like that conversation you had with that Pacific Island leader was very important for you, to kind of have that personal connection. Here are people that are being directly affected.
I'd say I have another emotion, I'll be frank with you, and it's anger. Because when I was Secretary of State, I had to deal with these climate change deniers. Some of whom are the Conservative backbenchers, some of whom are people like Nigel Lawson and the so-called Global Warming Foundation. And what they have done, try to undermine both the scientific case, let alone the emotional case, has been outrageous. And I think they knew they were lying, they knew they were misleading people, and that makes me really angry. That set back the cause. You know, when the BBC treated Nigel Lawson as like, you know, 50-50, give 50% time to him and 50%, I mean, outrageous. It's like, this is, as President Obama said, we don't need another flat earth society, right? You know, because that's what they are, they're flat earthers. They're going against the evidence. And so I'm both angry that people are still trying to undermine the case, and you know, some of the corruption you see around the world,
being governments, being in industry, where they're just trying to deny the reality. So I get angry about that, but I'll get passionate that we've got to move, and there is nothing more important.
Great. So one of the things is, like you mentioned, that's climate denial, and what's interesting about this is there's something called soft denial, and I would say by my own practice now of telling the truth, having, as a scientist of 30 years engaging with this issue, I feel I've only, since I came across Extinction Rebellion, I've really started telling the truth to let it in emotionally. And I recognise through that process, it's quite humbling to recognise that on some levels I'm also in denial. On some level, every day I forget this is an existential threat and just carry on acting as though life's normal. And that's a survival mechanism, it's understandable. I can have compassion for myself in doing that. But what's helpful is then I see that there's a continuum, that we're all in denial on some level. This telling the truth is not a tick box thing, I get it. It's like every single day stripping away the layers of denial that we all still have. So, clearly you are on this journey of telling the truth, and I would just encourage you to recognise that it's not an ever fixed thing, and to encourage you to constantly tell the truth more and more and let it in more and more.
Yeah, all I would say is I've been around Liberal Democrat policy making in this area for the last 30 years, really. The reason I joined the Liberal Democrats in 1989, when we were 4% in the opinion polls, was because Paddy Ashdown was the only serious party leader who was talking about the environment and climate change. And I responded to that. My first engagement with it was age 18 when I read a book called Seeing Green by Jonathan Porritt. Yeah. That changed, frankly, my life in a way. And I started thinking about the environment in a completely different way, that it was holistic about all our lives. And so I feel like you have been on a journey, I think the party's been on a journey, always caring about it, but trying to work out what on earth we did and how we engaged with voters. Because I tell you, many years ago, when we were starting out, voters weren't interested at all. And thanks to Extinction Rebellion and others, Greta Thunberg and other political parties, at last voters are really taking this issue seriously. I mean that's still part of the early stage of the journey. We've got to do more, but it's great that people now see this as the serious issue that it is.
Yeah. So the tell the truth has got two parts to it. This personal connection and including allowing the emotions in personally, and a daily practice of letting it in more and more. So that's great that you're also down with that. The second part is telling the truth as a societal level. So the invitation is as Liberal Democrat Party. Now, again, I see that Lib Dems are on this journey. You're calling it an emergency, which is brilliant. And it's only when we tell the truth as a nation that we can step up as a nation in the way that's needed with this crisis. This is the biggest threat, as we agree, that humanity's ever faced. We need everyone on board with that. So the challenge, this is why with this climate and ecological emergency bill, there are three parts to it. The tell the truth bit is that we get, not just we tick the box and declare an emergency like Parliament did on the 1st of May, but that we use all the power that we all have to bring the attention to everyone. So everyone in the public knows, for example, what climate lag means and global dimming means. And they know how serious this is, that our food security in this country is at stake, as well as the 820 million that are already hungry today. So that telling the truth, I would encourage the Lib Dems, and you then within your wider, like the personal practice, then take that into the wider thing of how can I support the Lib Dems to tell the truth more and more accurately and truthfully each day, to call it the emergency it is, to educate the public on that, and that when we're in government, we push for the government to fully tell the truth, because only when the country is acknowledging the truth will we be able to take the steps necessary to address the crisis. Do you kind of agree with that?
Yeah, no, I absolutely do. I mean, you've got to make sure that the debate continues and the debate doesn't go away in a few months' time, because this emergency won't have gone away. The emergency is with us for the next 2 generations or more.
I suppose then we're asking, are you prepared to carry on talking about it?
Yeah, this is why I got into politics. This is why I got into politics in the first place.
So I really understand that, but I think it's about those things about the vulnerabilities of everything we cherish. We face losing them in the next 5 to 10 years, and so we're relying on people like you who have the responsibility to be elected and to be democratically elected at this time to say, you have to keep talking about it, even when it's not.
Just to help you.
And the policies have to be framed around that emergency. Yeah. The policies of our economy, our finance, our transport. And so just how radical does that mean, facing that truth and those vulnerabilities, what does that mean for our airports? What does that mean for GDP? What does it mean for our money
Just
systems?
before we get into policy though, so that's the two bits about the truth. So it's like you telling it personally and then seeing how you can support your party and the media and everyone to tell it as well personally so that it's out there. Because at the moment most people, as you acknowledge, things have shifted because of Greta and because of us and these movements. Things are shifting, they're not shifting enough. Most people don't know the level, so we agreed on that, it's great. So the next bit is about policy actually. Before we, the challenge is so huge that we cannot rely on policy to deal with the crisis. What we need is a system that allows the responses to be shared. We need to once we're telling the truth as a nation, the nation can step up together, like we did with the Second World War. We had a threat, there was a national existential threat. It wasn't about which party can make the best out of this. It's like, we've got to fight Germany. We're probably going to lose, we thought when we went in, but we've got to try. And that's where we're at now, the biggest threat ever. We don't know how it's going to go, but we've got to step up and try. So rather than try and do that through policy, we need to do that through a process. And so that's why with our climate ecological emergency bill, it's the process behind it. So it's like, tell the truth, declare and get everyone aware and onto speed, everyone to get pulling together, and then a process. So we say, look, the science requires 2025. No one would choose 2025 to go zero carbon, but that's what the science says. So as a nation, we have to pull together behind that. And the key thing then is the Citizens' Assembly, which I know you've got in your manifesto. And it's brilliant that when I spoke with Sal Brinton last week, she agreed that Citizens' Assembly would be mandatory. That Parliament would have to follow the advice of that Citizens' Assembly, because we're at a point now, that's how urgent it is. The beauty of a Citizens' Assembly is it would have buy-in from the whole country. It wouldn't risk a party coming up with policy and being rejected. It would be like everyone can see that people like them have been part of the process.
Well, I'm very much in favour of getting the process right. You have to get the process right, whether it's the scientific evidence, the assessment of scientific evidence, getting more people engaged, citizens' assemblies, all that approach where our politics becomes more engaged, more participatory, more deliberative. And our politics for so long has been either one end representative, where you vote for someone and then you forget about everything, or as we see with the Brexit referendum, direct democracy, and then that's not necessarily got a happy ending. We need people to be much more engaged in the issues all the time in a way that they can feel involved, and that will only work if their voice is listened to, if they can see that their engagement actually changes things. So politicians have to listen and have to take account of what their people are saying and show that they've included it. And this can be done. Some people think it's hogwash, but give me one or two examples. When the politics of Iceland broke down after the 2007-2008 crash, and it's only a country of 300,000 people, but it's interestingly because they could do these models. They had been proud of their democracy, and they realised that democracy had not been working. And so they created new models. And in the city of Reykjavik, where about half the population plus live, they created an idea called Better Reykjavik. And it was about the environment, it's about other things too. And what they did was the citizens got engaged and were able to go online and put forward ideas of how to improve life and how to improve their community. And then other citizens would vote on the different ideas that other citizens put forward. And the ones that came to the top would then go to the Reykjavik City Council and they would put them in. And nearly 80% of Reykjavik citizens of Reykjavik have got involved, which is an amazing statistic. I mean, amazing statistic. And over 10 years, nearly 700 projects from the citizens have been implemented. And because the city council is implementing what people have said, then people go, oh, right, I'll have another idea. And so you get more engagement and more engagement. And so the awareness that people can get involved and can make a difference transform the politics, transform the process, and results in much better quality of life. So I think those processes we've seen, I'll give you from other examples, where you are engaging with people and they see that their participation makes a difference, then that's transformatory.
And so are you aware of the bill that we're talking about, the climate and ecological? You had a chance to look at it?
Well, I haven't looked at it as a piece of legislation. I've looked at the core ideas. I've engaged with Extinction Rebellion.
There you go, there's a copy.
Lovely.
So this bill exists, it's been drafted, it's ready to go. Parliament declared on the 1st of May and nothing has happened decent, commensurate with the urgency and the crisis that we've agreed. So this bill exists, and what we're asking you to do personally is to engage with this bill, like, as part of your practice of tell the truth and act on it, is to get behind this bill, support it, help us to bring it so that this next government that we appoint at this election has to be the emergency government. We don't have any more time. This next one has to start the process, and this bill exists. So let's get yourself, all the other candidates, all the parties behind this bill so that we can start moving together as a country, as a nation, to kind of do the job and get this crisis addressed. So that's the first ask, really, is for you to support this bill. And what we'd like to do is one of the demands of the hunger strike is to have an hour-long meeting with each party leader. And it's wonderful that the Lib Dems, absolute credit to you, that you've been so proactive. We met Sal last week, we're meeting you now, and we really need to meet with Jo. I know that she's busy, and I know that but this is the crisis of our times, and this is how we address it. So we need an hour's meeting with her, because these guys are on hunger strike, and they're not going to stop until we get these meetings with these party leaders.
Well, I can't promise that. Yeah. I don't control the diary.
I promise you can ask and push
what I would say, you are dealing with I am the deputy leader.
Yeah.
I am the Treasury spokesperson, so I would be introducing the emergency budget.
Yeah.
And I've already said my first budget would be a climate emergency budget.
Yeah.
And so you've got that from me, as deputy leader, and I was also the Secretary of State for Energy and Climate Change, so I've been there at the international negotiations as well as driving renewable energy, which should come on to policy in a moment, because while I agree with about process, because you're going to have to, in the next stage of decarbonisation, individuals are going to have to change their lives, whether it's involving new technology or changing the way they live. I mean, a classic example is when we heat our homes, we're going to have much better energy efficient homes, obviously, but are we going to be able to have gas boilers anymore? Is it going to be electric? Is it going to be some other form? And we actually don't know. We actually don't know, because there are forms of gas which would be zero carbon, and that might be a more decarbonised way than using heating, electricity. We generally don't know, and I've looked at it in massive detail. And the point I'm making is, when you look at the policy, you've got to work out what is going to deliver as fast as possible. So, Secretary of State, I nearly quadrupled Britain's renewable power in a very short time. Britain is now the world leader in offshore wind. We've done a lot better in onshore wind if the Tories hadn't put a ban on it. I really pushed the case for tidal lagoons. I had opposition from the Treasury, the Conservative Party, even the civil servants, but I pushed it forward. Unfortunately, I wasn't in government for only 3 years, and the Tories have killed tidal lagoons, which is a disaster. It's so obviously the right next renewable technology, which do dramatically benefits, and we've got to get this stuff in quickly. And I think if we had citizens' assemblies helping people both understand the problem and come up with solutions, and take on the solutions and the challenges for their lives and their families' lives, their communities' lives, I think it would be incredibly helpful.
Absolutely.
I will be frank with you, I do think 2025 is a challenging date. Liberal Democrats want to do it as soon as practically possible. No expense spared, we want to get it done. But there's only so many people alive who can do stuff, only so many engineers.
Yeah.
You know,
we look at the example of the Second World War. It's not about what's convenient or seems feasible or seems possible. It's about what's necessary. We're facing existential threat.
That's one of the reasons we're actually very radical. I think more radical than any other party, because we've talked about decarbonising capitalism. So if you want to change the world, you have to change the economic system at a great depth, and that is the city, the banks, the pension funds, the stock exchanges, the debt markets, and so on. And we need rules and laws which force investors in all these financial markets to put climate change risk at the heart of every single investment.
What about a carbon ration?
Well, that may well be one way, but I'm talking even deeper than that. Mine is far more radical than carbon rationing.
Okay.
Because what you would do, the investors who control trillions of dollars, yen, sterling, euros, would have to look at climate risk. Let me give you one example. 15% of the investment in coal in the world is funded on the London Stock Exchange. So coal is, because of my policies, is now going out in this country. I'm very proud of that.
We have.
But we're still raising all that money for coal industry around the world in this city.
Yeah,
and unless we change the laws, and this is way more radical than anything anyone else has put forward, we just don't get the credit for it. It's way more radical. It affects the whole world, because we've got to do so much more in this country, but we've got to help many other countries too, because we represent about 1.5 to 2% of global greenhouse gas emissions. We've got to get rid of those, but we have got to be working in Beijing, in Shanghai, we've got to be working in Rio de Janeiro, we've got to be working all over the world to try to get the world out of coal by 2025. That's the target I go for, getting coal shut down. And I speak, my family on my father's side were miners, right, in Nottinghamshire. They dug that stuff out of the ground. We have got to keep it in the ground. And you're only going to do that if investors controlling these billions and tens of billions and trillions have to, by law, not by choice, not by rationing, not by taxes, but by law. Otherwise they go to jail. Now, that is radical. If you change the rules and regulations...
And in order to do that, we need to be aware of the truth as a nation. If everyone is aware of the truth, then those kind of approaches are obvious. But at the moment, people will be going to you, what are you talking about? That's too radical, because they don't know how desperate it is and urgent it is.
Yes and no, yes and no. I mean, I don't expect every person in the country to understand the rules of the stock exchange, right? That's asking a bit too much. But we've got to make sure the people who are in charge of them do recognise it. And there's some good news here. Yes, there are people trying to stop these ideas. They absolutely are there. I won't mention one or two political parties, but you know who I mean. But the governor of the Bank of England, Mark Carney, he's one of the best people on this. And there are one or two heads of pension funds. And why are the heads of pensions funds worried about this? Because they are contractually obliged to pay out pensions for the next 40 years. And they're looking at how they're going to meet those liabilities. They're going, we're not going to have to meet them because there's nothing to invest in, because because climate change is going to hit it. So there are a few people in the city who we can work with to radically reform the whole of capitalism. And if London does it, if the UK does it, we can be the gold standard for the world. And why am I going on about this? This is at the heart of the economy of the world. If you get to the heart and you change the colour of the blood beating around the system, so it's green blood, if you like, then you're going to be able to meet radical targets. And yes, you have to take people with you by truth-telling. I completely agree with that. But we have to move so quickly that policy has to jump probably ahead of where public opinion is.
No, I think it has to come from, we have to get people with us. We cannot afford to take the risk of people not understanding why we're doing it. And we have to trust people. People, when they understand it, will step up. That's what we saw in the Second World War. We've seen it time and time again in history.
I have a lot of agreement with that, but I have to say we have to be even more radical than that. Sometimes we have to be ahead of people.
Well, yeah, our role, that's why we're speaking to you. Our role as leaders is to lead that process.
We have to lead it.
And we do that that's why it starts from our personal practice. So the more you strip away your own levels of denial, and we all can do that, then the more we're able to really tell the truth and step up and support others in telling the truth themselves. Just a little bit about, we've got to go, unfortunately. I would love to have much more time with you. So, but we've got...
I'd like to make a point as well. Yeah.
Great. So the Citizens' Assembly is deliberative democracy. So you mentioned direct democracy, the referendum. It wasn't deliberative. The beauty of the Citizens' Assembly is it's deliberative. And so that's why it's so important, and that's why... And so would you agree that it would, basically we need a Citizens' Assembly on climate and ecological justice that leads Parliament? Would you agree with that?
I absolutely agree that we need those citizens' assemblies. Constitutionally, from an election, Parliament has to be the final law-making body, obviously. But they need to absolutely take account of those citizens' assemblies. And I don't quite know, I haven't looked at this, how it would relate to Parliament in terms of constitution. But I can say, when I was Secretary of State, the Committee on Climate Change, which was set up by Ed Miliband, so I'm giving a Labour politician some credit here, that was extraordinarily helpful. I'll tell you something that also was extraordinarily helpful for the work I did, because I was having such fights with the Tories the whole time, was European legislation. When Europe had got renewable energy targets for 2020, I could go to George Osborne and say, I don't care what you think, there's a law here that's forcing us to do things that you may not want to do, I want to do, and we're going to do it because it's the law. And so the power of the law to force governments is really, really important. And one of the things I dislike about Brexiteers the most is they're trying to wriggle out of good European law, and they're undermining our ability to work with other European countries to do more. I spent 3 years at the European Council on Energy and the Environment promoting what I call climate diplomacy. When I took the proposal for a 40% cut in greenhouse gas emissions, at that time I was seen as completely radical and the most green, tree-hugging person in Europe. The Tories only allowed me to have that mandate because they thought I'd never get it. I took it to the Climate Change Commissioner, a Dane called Connie Hedegaard, and she said, and I got on very well, she said, "You'll never get that, Ed." I said, "Watch me," and I got it. And I got it because I got off my backside, unlike most politicians, and I went round European capitals. I have to say I had to fly, but put that by the side. And I talked to the Poles who didn't want to do it. I talked to the Slovaks, and I talked to the Czechs and the Hungarians, as well as the Germans, the French, and we got everyone to do a lot more. And the UK had a good target, but we managed to get the whole of Europe up. And guess what? A month after we got that agreement for the heads of state of Europe in October 2014, President Xi and President Obama, who, by the way, Obama was a million times better than Trump, you probably know that, came out with a joint communique which led to the Paris Climate Treaty. Now, the Paris Climate Treaty isn't as good as we need, nowhere near as good as we need, but it was the first ever climate treaty, and it's probably the most important UN treaty since the UN was founded. Because unless we do the Paris Climate Treaty, we ain't got a cat in hell's chance of sorting this out. But we're going to have to go further. But it really began to get things going, and it got things going because we were at Europe, pushing hard for Europe, and then Europe was able to leverage to the Americans, the Chinese, and then we got the climate. So I'm really proud of what Liberal Democrats achieved because we were at Europe, and I think pulling out of Europe is a climate crime.
Can I just say, I absolutely agree with you on Europe, because, as you know, I'm sure, we need to sustain that linkage. If we do not sustain that linkage, we are compartmentalising the problem, and it has to be an integrated, shared problem. So it's a very simple argument, really. There's going to be more separations from our European neighbours, if more separations of communication, difficulties of communication, if we leave Europe. The other point I like to say is I'm really pleased that you talked about your anger, because we're angry and you're angry. So I would love to see, and I really mean this with my heart, and I believe you, by the way. I think we believe you. There's no reason why we shouldn't believe you. So I would like to see you use that anger in a wonderfully channeled way to actually penetrate, if you like, the skies of denial, so that these people who are trying to destroy the argument, this critical argument, can only be silent. You know.
Well, absolutely, I will continue to do that. I think we've made some big advances, and I think Extinction Rebellion has been a big part of that. I think Greta's been a big part of that. I think politicians of all parties, there are some Conservatives I've worked very closely with, and who really get climate change. And we've just got to keep on it. I mean, we cannot let this go. This is the most important thing. And God help us if we Brexit. We've got to find a way still to do this, because
we're going to do it whatever happens. And the other part of it is getting beyond party politics. That's partly again why the Citizens' Assembly is so important, because we need. Like, I'm glad to hear you talking across party. It's like this is the hard science. Laws of physics do not care about party loyalties. We're dealing with the laws of physics here, and we're dealing about societal collapse and the greatest challenge we've ever faced. So we all need to come together. So on some level, at some point, your practice of telling the truth will also involve you getting beyond your party political position and working with everyone in a way that's for the common interest. And that's part of the thing as well, to build this so that it's everyone pulling together. It's not about pushing a particular party thing, it's about what's going to work, what's going to be most effective. And again, that's why if we put it to the Citizens' Assembly, it's like a really great way of putting it to the people in a way that's deliberative and really thought through, so they get the best out of people. Because if you have people that are informed by all of the information, they will make really good decisions. So that's kind of, you know, another key reason why the Citizens' Assembly is so important with it. So unfortunately we've got to dash off now. I would love to stay with you longer. I really appreciate you coming to speak with us. So can we, like, I know, so, you know, we've set ourselves the challenge of having these meetings with the party leaders. So we would love to meet with Joe. We'd love to meet with you again in that meeting if possible, because as you say, you are the man around this because you've eaten, breathed this for 30 years. So these are on hunger strike. They don't want to go on hunger strike any longer than necessary. So the sooner we can get this meeting, the better. I know you're not going to say on the spot now when that's going to be, but
there are people here, they will pass it back up the line.
Yeah. Can we get like a contact and keep in touch about when that's, you know, have a conversation about when that meeting can be?
These people will take it upwards. I haven't seen Jo for about 10 days because we're so busy going all over the place. But I'm sure she would very much like to. It's just a question of finding the time. And I know how big a priority she puts on climate change. So it's right up there. I mean, we've got the most ambitious climate change policy we've ever had. And it's based on experience, it's based on evidence, and I think it's very practical. So hopefully it will.
Thank you.
All right, guys.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed.
Take care.
All the best.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
Take care.
so we'll see you again soon and we'll be in touch.
Yeah. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Take care. Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, it's really worrying. Water bottle here. I don't know if that's a good one. So where have you been staying while you're doing this strike?
There.
Staying there. Okay, yeah.
That's one of the worst parts, is going home and coming here.
How do you go home without a contract?
We try to avoid the rush hour so every day.
Yeah, because nobody has any idea what you're... Do you keep your badge on when you're on the tube?
Well, I did to begin with, and then somebody tried to tear it off me. So.
Oh, really?
So
why?
people
Just
think,
to be
well,
aggressive?
There's just funny people around.
I just now I can change. No, what are you doing? I just not started. But I just
Really
Hello.
nice to meet you. Do you want us going down to on the same level?
I think that would be sensible.
Well, the Red Brigade is. Red Brigade.
Oh no, maybe wrong.
Regiment.
Just wondering, will it exchange two levels?
Don't try too much.
Yes. Okay. Right.
Yep. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Peter, are you about ready to speak?
My name is Peter Cole, and I want to first thank everybody who has come down today, particularly the Red Rebels, the carolers, and all our supporters. We are hunger striking in front of the Tory HQ in order to try to engage with them about the climate change that is going to ruin our lives. And we are angry, not just disappointed, but angry, because none of them have engaged. Not Boris, not one of the former cabinet, and none of the workers there. And this is really disgusting, because the future of our children and our grandchildren depends on us acting on climate change. First, telling the truth to the nation via the media, and then acting on it. Not in 50 years' time as they say they will, because we know that they won't act until 5 years before, which is when they will want votes. And we'll all be swimming by then. I want you to look at this young lady here, Marina. She is 18.
Yeah.
She is Mexican, and she was striking with us, hunger striking, alone in a foreign country, Gambia. Ghana, sorry.
That's good.
For 2 weeks. Now she is 18. She represents the future. She represents the children that we want to protect. And she was putting her life on the line, just as we have, in order to try to prevent our children and grandchildren dying in a horrible way from climate change. I want you all, please, to try your best to persuade whoever gets into power here to support our 3 demands bill, which, as you know, is to tell the truth, to act now before the emissions start to accelerate through the various cycling back loops and become totally irreversible. And then finally, we want a citizens' assembly which will fairly ensure that climate change is prevented. Everybody in a sharing economy, changing the system so that we don't have growth, but a sharing economy which benefits us all and prevents us dying a horrible death. Thank you.
Lily?
Do you want me to stand up or stay here?
No, just so you are.
I've come here today. Where do you want me to look? See this camera. I've come here today because I heard about the work of the hunger strikers, and I was very moved by it. I think that when people make an act that profound, when they risk their health, especially when they're 60s and 76 years old, we need to listen. And when I learned that they'd been here for over 3 weeks and that not one member of the Conservative leadership or MPs had come out to speak to them, just to speak to them, I thought it's not acceptable. It's not acceptable in a democratic country. We know we have millions of children marching right now asking for change. The UN have called for urgent and transformational change. We know the majority of the UK population are concerned about climate change, and we need to see politics that represents those voices. Some of the parties in this election I've actually been very impressed by, and most of the major parties have stepped up and really stepped up their environmental commitments. But unfortunately, that's not true of all of them, and it's not true of the Conservatives, who have, a good chance of being our next government or our government right now. And so this is an attempt to call attention to the voices of these hunger strikers, an attempt to ask voters to look at the climate commitments of different parties when you're voting, if that's something you are concerned about. And whoever wins, attempt to ask that people are listened to and that science is listened to. Thank you.
Can I say something?
Yeah. Marina's
Yeah.
going to speak as well.
I just wanted to say, this is the youth. We need to hear the voices of the youth. We need to hear the voices of minorities, people of colour, poorer people that are suffering, because ultimately climate change is a reality in much of the world, and it's crazy for us to just close our eyes and pretend like it's not happening, because people are suffering now. It's not that climate change is coming, climate change is here, and we need to stop it because it's not fair, okay? I'm from Mexico. Out there, people are already suffering the consequences. We're seeing mass migration, and whether that's all from climate change or not, we know the consequences of mass migration. We know that it separates families. We know that it hurts lives, and there's sexual assault, there's rape. All of this happens as a result. And UN estimates have said by 2050 there'll be 1 billion migrants. Like, what don't we understand? This is imminent. This is an imminent threat. This is happening now, and you guys aren't acting accordingly. We need politicians to hear our voices. We have skipped school. We have sat on the streets. We've stood up, and you haven't done anything. So you need to listen to us, because it's not that you're going to listen to us in 1 year, 2 years' time. You listen to us now, because we don't have that time. Thank you.
Hear, hear.